When thinking about the onboarding process with Mainstay, why do you and your team do it the way in which you do it? And how does that differ from the way other managed service providers or IT firms may onboard a client?
Sure. Yeah. So we spend a lot of time refining our onboarding process. It's very important because when a client signs on with Mainstay, they're expecting to get a good experience and we want to deliver a good experience. So in order to do that, we support their business day one and we need to have a lot of resources dedicated to really learning the business, understanding the foundation, creating documentation, securing the environment, resetting passwords. There's just a whole lot that goes into that because we don't want to be caught in a situation, 3 weeks after onboarding that we didn't get a password to something or we can't access something. So it delays time in fixing it or, finding solutions for whatever it is. So, we really put a lot of time and effort into coming into the business and really just getting everything done quickly and as seamlessly as possible.
So you mentioned the getting passwords and that we're responsible from day one when we're working with a client. So what does that overlap and that transition look from either maybe an internal IT team or an external IT team that was formerly working with the client to working with Mainstay?
Sure. Yeah. So each one's a little bit different. If it's an outgoing MSP, a managed service provider, then usually we're getting like an export of technical credentials, very limited documentation, but so we're using that information to reset passwords and build our own foundation. If it's internal IT, depending on the situation, we could either be leveraging them for a similar export or sometimes there's unique circumstances where you just, have very limited information and we still just go in and we get it done.
So what is the ideal outcome at the end of this client transformation project, this client onboarding? And I know it's an ongoing process and it may take 90 days, but what does that look like at that 90-day mark and beyond?
Sure. Yeah. So, really the end goal of the process is to go in, secure the environment, make sure all the staff are familiar with Mainstay. They know how to contact us. They're comfortable contacting us. And in fact, encouraged to contact us because if they're not, we're not going to be able to solve some of those longer term issues that we're unaware of just because we weren't in the business for that long. So that's kind of the foundation building into, reporting and figuring out seeing trends and then planning for the future. So when the client is kind of done with that transformation, that 90-day mark, they have an idea of what we found as part of onboarding and where we think they should go and how it aligns with their business.
And that's part of the initial strategic planning meeting?
It is. Okay. Yep.
Tell me a little bit about your initial strategic planning meeting and then maybe any subsequent strategic planning meetings that we may have with the client.
Sure, yeah. So that initial strategic planning meeting, that's where we're going to sit down, and go through everything that we found during onboarding. So the state of, computers, are they older than 5 years? Are they running legacy operating systems? Same with servers, networking, are things under warranty? Do they need to be replaced? Do they match the compliance of the business? Security, where does that stand? The environment. So we're going to break everything down and then come up with next steps for each segment, essentially. And more often than not, you can't do everything in 1 year. So it's kind of breaking down what's the most critical, and then those subsequent planning meetings are just, what it makes sense for the business to do that year.
So you're creating a roadmap to get them onto a path of, say, IT operational excellence.
Yeah, exactly.